Hello, I'm Dr. Kimberly Douglas, and I am the chief contributor to this Substack, The Learning Landscape, where we are mapping 21st century learning. I invite you to like, to comment, to share this Substack post. That helps tremendously. I also encourage you to become a paid subscriber to the Substack. That creates space and time for me to think about and to process the content that I'm placing here and just invite you to have a conversation with me about anything interesting, anything valuable that you encounter here on the Substack. I'm going to keep talking this week about Ed founders, and I'm talking to Ed founders and what it means. Like, who are the Ed founders? I want to talk a little bit more about that. So, when I started mapping out what I wanted to say today, actually, the bulk of what I'll talk about is the fact that when you are creating, you're founding something, you're creating something, you are constantly testing. And I'll go through some different phases and stages in building where you are testing. But before I get to that, I want to talk about who the Ed founders are. This is part of a continuing conversation that I'm having in the Substack, the learning landscape. Some part of this has been about surveying the landscape, seeing what educational tools out there, what does the infrastructure look like. In the past few weeks, I've shifted the conversation to talk about not just observing, but also building. So starting to think about who the world builders are, who the founders are in this space. You may not be thinking of yourself as an ed founder. And when I say ed founder, it could be someone who is a technical founder or non-technical founder. So you could be starting a tech project or you could be opening up a community. If you are creating anything, whether it's an infrastructure, whether it's a group or community, that is aiding people with skills development, you are an ed founder. You are an ed founder. I encourage you to move away from the thinking that it has to look like traditional education. Because what traditional education should be about and is about, for the most part, is about skills development. And I can name two or three people off the top of my head who are doing projects around archiving and around memory. And in my mind, those individuals are ed founders because what they're doing is they are creating infrastructure for skills development, real skills that adults can use in the real world. They may be talking about digitizing pictures or collecting, digitizing scrapbooks, but there's a set of skills that go along with that type of archiving. There are steps that you can itemize, learning outcomes that can be quantified or qualified that they are encouraging people to work towards. If you have not thought of yourself as an ed founder previously, I challenge you to open your mind to the possibility that you are helping build education for the future. As I did last week, I am adding a link to this Substack, and it's the Founders 5 Questions. It's an infographic that can be used by any founder. In this case, I'm targeting it towards ed founders, but it can be used by any founders. And there are 5 questions that I want you to think about as you are building so that you don't waste your time, you don't waste your money, you don't waste your resources, and that we can actually support you in building out the learning landscape. Going back to a previous conversation I was having in this space, I was talking about how I read this article about Substack and how people don't want to come here just to read about things, because you can get information in a lot of spaces, that it's really important that we offer something, offer some tools, some strategies, some things that are actionable to people. And the Founders 5 Questions are actionable. And then I'm going to add something else onto this on the back end. But here are the 5 questions. Whether you see yourself as an ed founder or not, if you are building something that develops skills, it helps with skills development in some way, even if it's a hobby, even if you're showing people how to set up role play games, even if you're showing people how to select skins for characters, If there are learning outcomes and there are learning objectives, then I want you to consider that you are building out something valuable in the learning landscape. The Founder's 5 questions are these. Number one, what is the problem that you're solving with your innovation? Who are you solving it for? Do they see it as a problem? Do they see it as a problem they want solved? Do they see it as a problem they want solved with your solution? And in a case study that I posted last week, I gave the example of a person coming up with a tech tool that helps loved ones work with people in their household who are taking the GED. It shows loved ones how to work with people in their household who are taking the GED. So, what problem are we solving? People around me, they want to know how to help me, but they don't know how to help me. So, it's the people who are around me who live in the household with me or in community with me. Do they see it as a problem? Possibly. Do they see it as a problem they won't solve? Possibly. Do they see it as a problem they won't solve with the solution that we're offering? I think the character's name was Kara that I used, the solution that Kara is offering. When in doubt, or if you have questions, before you commit a lot of resources to a tech tool or any tools that you're using as a founder, make sure you go back to the Founder's 5 questions. Your role as a founder, as a builder in the learning landscape is about constantly testing. Constantly testing. And I have 6 items here or 6 considerations I want you to make when you think about what you need to be testing for the landscape. You are constantly testing the problem you're solving, the prototype, the product or service, your prices, your profit, and your projections. So I'll say that again. You should be on an ongoing basis testing the problem that you're solving, the prototype solution, the product or service solution, the prices, the profit, the projections. Okay. So with the problem, it goes back to what I was saying earlier with the Founder's 5 questions. What problem are you solving? Before you start creating anything, before you commit any resources, it is wise to talk with people in one-to-one interviews, in surveys, through data mining, through focus groups, or any other means. Talk to them to see if this is a problem they actually want solved. A lot of times people get stuck after they've created something because they don't know who to talk to about it, who to market it to, who to sell it to, because they did not talk to people prior to creating this. So just because it's a good idea, it doesn't mean that it's the idea that you need to create. So having a good idea is not the same thing as having a marketable idea. On an ongoing basis, even after you create a product, a service, you want to be checking to make sure you're solving a problem that people want solved. So problem, prototype. So what is your ideal solution for this? Is it a tech project? Is it a community? And so if I put something together real quick and have people test it out just for funsies, what kinds of reactions am I going to get? What kind of data can I collect from them? If I have them do some beta testing for me. So there's the problem itself. And I'm going through this because I want to make it clear that these tests are different from each other. Testing the problem, the idea that somebody even sees this as a problem is very different from testing your solution for their problem. So there's a problem, there's a prototype, and related, similar to the prototype, there's the product or the service itself. So after I've experimented and had people test it out and had people do a dry run, once I put this product on the market, once I say this tech project for GED is really good, what is it looking like in terms of sales? What is the user experience? What kind of user experience are people having when they actually purchase it? Does it hold up? to purchases. If it's like a physical product, does it hold up in terms of a digital product? Does it hold up in terms of relationships inside of a community? So you're constantly testing the problem, testing the prototype, testing the products and services, testing the price, testing the price. So there may be a lot of reasons why the product or service is not selling. Price may be one of those reasons, but it's not always exclusively the reason. And so in the beginning, when you are identifying what the problem is that you're solving and what the prototype should be, as you're listening to people, one of the things you want to find out is what they are willing to exchange for the solution that you're offering. So you test the price even before anything comes out. You can test the price even after something is on the market. You can experiment with the pricing. But the best time to figure out what the best price is before you have anything on the market, before you put it on the market. Then your profits, your profit itself is a way of testing. Am I able to generate the revenue I want to generate and the profits I want to generate from this? When all is said and done and I've paid for my cost and covered my cost, am I seeing the profits I would like to see that are going to keep me alive and feed my family and keep my business afloat? So again, all of these are features that need to be tested or are themselves testing. Are themselves test. So testing the problem, testing the prototype, how well the prototype does, the product or the service, the prices, the profits, and then the projections. How far out are you able to project based upon your revenue goals, based upon your prices, based upon the market, how your product or service is performing in that market? Here's the thing, a lot of us who do we offer social supports and educational supports. We don't like to think about this stuff. We don't like to think about revenue projections and profit, like revenue goals. We don't like to think about that. But this is not just you operating out here as an individual. You are creating systems for the future. This requires you to collaborate with people and work with people. But this requires you to really understand what the market, what is needed in the landscape that goes beyond your good idea. Your good idea is great, but we are looking to you to help build infrastructure that is going to educate. I focus on adults, but children as well, but is going to educate the population in the future. It is becoming clearer and clearer to us day by day how undereducated we are here, and I'm speaking in the United States. And people need the opportunities to interact with products and services that help them learn, grow, and develop. And this has to go beyond, it can include a certification, it can include a degree, but the opportunities have to go beyond that to getting people the types of skills they need to function in everyday life. And I'm encouraging you to really take these tests in consideration. Are we solving the problem we think we're solving or the problem that people want solved? Are we prototyping something that is useful and usable? Are we creating a product or service from something that is usable? Are we going into the market at the right price? Are we generating the profits that are going to help us maintain what we're trying to do here? And what are our projections, our long-term projections far out? If you are an ed founder, I invite you into a conversation with me. I will also include a link here in this post where you can come talk to me about, first of all, do introductions and open up a conversation about your experiences with pricing in particular. Because what I found is that it's kind of I don't know if you call it intersection or nexus point, where a lot of things come together, a lot of assumptions, a lot of decisions, a lot of fears, anxieties, and possibilities come together. So I invite you to come into a conversation with me to talk about these P's: problem, prototype, product, prices, profit, projections, but in particular prices. And in that conversation, I'm going to encourage you further to really think about the gravity of what you're doing and what you are offering in the learning landscape. No matter how small this project is or this little thing that you've been working on, perhaps you've been treating it as a hobby. But if you are creating a space for people to develop skills, to expand their minds, to make connections. An important part of learning is connecting with other human beings. If people are learning through connections, then you need to be supported. You need to, you need resources. You need to be able to thrive in this learning landscape. So I want you to take yourself seriously as a founder. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you for being here. What I did last week was I took my first talk in the week and pulled out a transcript, and I told Gemini to take the advice that I put there and work that into a case study of a fictional character. I think I'll do the same thing this week. That was a lot of fun and it was really interesting. Let me know what you think about that. The more feedback you give me, the more useful I can be to whatever it is you're working on. Again, I'm Dr. Kimberly Douglas, Chief Contributor for the Learning Landscape. Thank you for being here. Take care.